I testify, I solemnly witness, I give my divine statement to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of the book of Revelation. If you add to them, God is going to add the plagues, which are terrifyingly awful. So if I were a Mormon, I would be trembling in my boots, as we used to say in England. If you're adding another gospel that is not part of the Bible, you ought to be terrified of the plagues that are threatened. Actually, it was Luther. I'm glad you mentioned this point, because Luther, who didn't understand the book of Revelation early on in his career, he said the book of Revelation should not be in the canon. I don't want it in the canon, Luther said. Luther now, if you're a Lutheran, ask your pastor to preach on this. Luther was dead against the book of Revelation, at least in his early days. Later on, he kind of softened a little bit. But to be against the book of Revelation is highly dangerous, because if you continue with that attitude, you're going to have the plagues in the book of Revelation given you. So I think that's a fascinating way that the whole Bible ends. Don't mess with the book of Revelation. Referring again to the millennium, the 1,000-year reign of the saints, a very simple idea. It begins at the second coming. There's been ultimate conversation, dispute, argument, and confusion over that passage, quite unnecessarily. And there was a famous church historian called Augustine, or church theologian as he's known, who absolutely couldn't stand the millennium. If that's your attitude to the millennium as a future reign of Christ with the saints, you really need to re-examine your attitude, because you could be fighting the book of Revelation, and nobody should risk doing that.